We're going to start with Psalm 19. The heavens are telling of the glory of God, and their expanse is declaring the work of his hands. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their utterances to the end of the world. In them he has placed a tent for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. It rejoices as a strong man to run his course. Its rising is from one end of the heavens and its circuit to the other end of them, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true. They are righteous altogether. They are more desirable than gold, yes, than much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey and drippings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned. In keeping them there is great reward. Who can discern his errors? Acquit me of hidden faults. Also keep back your servant from presumptuous sins. Let them not rule over me. Then I will be blameless, and I shall be acquitted of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. This song is particularly appropriate for today because we're going to talk about Samuel's call and the destruction of Eli's dynasty. And this idea of that having the law is a good thing. I don't know about y'all, but growing up, every time my parents gave me a new rule, it was like confining to me. But they're saying that God's law is meant to be a freeing thing. And Eli knew his sons were not obeying God's precepts, but he did not punish them, remove them, do anything to them. And so in God's eyes, he was as guilty as that. Okay. I need someone, and it'll be Sarah. Gosh, we're glad you're back to read first.
We didn't know what to do last night.
Yeah. But before I do that, I have to tell you, Monday at Red Elementary School, the optometrist came to test the children for glasses. And the Lions Club came to bring frames,
Right.
so the kids could pick out frames for their classes. It's all free to them.
Oh, that's nice.
That's really nice.
And so there's this one little boy, they all warned us he was coming. And he was going to come during the time I was volunteering with the glasses, because I said, it's okay, they'll be fine. He isn't all there, is what they said to us.
Like he's handicapped or mental.
I guess. They just said he isn't all there. And he's kind of like scattered and hard to control and all. So anyway, he came in, they took him up. They sat there and they put the thing in front of him to show him the chart. He was in second grade. He had to have anything read to him that needed to be done. No reading, could barely articulate his thoughts. He put the glasses on, and then he said, "This is what the world looks like."
You couldn't see it all.
The doctor said he was probably just about legally blind, but with
Wow.
glasses
Wow.
he'd be able to see better.
That's great.
And then he turned to his teacher and said, "Can I learn to read?"
Oh, wow. I bet that broke your heart.
I started crying. He started crying. The next thing you know, we're all standing in there crying over this child. And I just thought, thank you, Lord, for the Lions, for the optometrists, for everyone that has donated their time to give these kids a head start.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that being the exciting thing? Now I can read.
Yeah.
And then his,
Yeah.
his parents.
Well, they're gonna
not have
retest him because they don't
Right.
think that there's anything wrong with him after all. He just couldn't see.
Couldn't see.
And his
It's weird
parents,
they didn't like pick up.
oh, please. This is a Title I school where the parents are working 3, 4 jobs.
Yeah.
They don't have
Well,
time.
I mean, my sister,
Coming
who,
from
you know,
broken homes.
grew up in a traditional home,
Right.
when she was remembering this story, when she was a little kid, they didn't figure out she needed glasses till she was about the 5th grade. She said every once in a while she'd pick up mama's glasses and put them on and go, wow.
Mhm.
And mama didn't pick up on it.
Wow.
You know, and back then, I don't remember being tested for vision and
Well, it wasn't
they didn't do
mandatory,
it.
but in Title I
No.
schools now,
They do.
they
probably.
test
Hearing. too.
hearing,
Yeah.
sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
Oh,
times for my son, Kyle, he was a late speaking, and when he did speak, his words were not, they were off, they were skeleton and pumpkin and things like that, and he couldn't hear. And we actually knew this. I mean, but he was going constantly to the ear doctor, and he had 3 sets of tubes in his ears by the time he was in kindergarten, and then his ears still ruptured when he was in kindergarten. But because I was aware that I got him in speech therapy before he ever started kindergarten, because the speech therapist said everything to Kyle sounds like he's underwater all the time. He cannot. He just has constantly has fluid in his ears, and she said that won't change until his natural ear canals drop and it can drain
Right.
fluid, which will be around 2nd grade, 2nd or 3rd grade.
Well, all I could think of was how wonderful the world's gonna open up. to
Open
them.
up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
So that was one of
yeah,
those
that's
Uh-huh.
wonderful moments
Wonderful.
that you get to witness. I had to text Jeff, you won't believe.
Well, that goes with his sermon today, giving to
Yeah.
people you don't even know.
it was a good sermon.
Yeah, it was good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good sermon. What chapter are we in?
We're in 1 Samuel chapter 3. Would you read that chapter for us?
3.
Looks
Let's see.
Now, let me tell you about
Chapter
what I'm
3.
reading from.
192.
This is, believe it or not, this is just the prophets.
Chapter 3.
Okay.
I bought this translation. This is a relatively new translation, Jewish translation of the Jewish scriptures.
Okay.
And so I've got 3 different volumes, the law of Moses, the prophets, and the writings.
Okay.
And so the fact that this is just the prophets tells you how many footnotes. The introduction to Samuel is 13 pages long.
I love it.
So that's what I'm reading from.
Okay.
Okay, you said the whole chapter.
Yes, please.
Okay.
There's the introduction.
Yeah. Minus the footnotes too. And the lad Samuel was ministering to the Lord in Eli's presence, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. Vision was not spread about. And it happened on that day that Eli was lying in his place. His eyes had begun to grow bleary. He could not see. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying in the temple of the Lord, in which was the ark of God. And the Lord called to Samuel, and he said, Here I am. And he ran to Eli, and he said, Here I am, for you called me. And he said, I did not call. Go back, lie down. And he went and lay down. And the Lord called once again, Samuel. And Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. And he said, I did not call, my son. Go back, lie down. And Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. And the Lord called still again to Samuel a 3rd time, and he rose and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. And Eli understood that the Lord was calling the lad. And Eli said to Samuel, Go lie down, and should someone call to you, say, Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. And Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood poised and called as on each time before, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, Speak, for your servant is listening. And the Lord said to Samuel, I'm about to do such a thing in Israel that whoever hears of it, both his ears will ring. On that day I will fulfill against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. And I have told him that I was passing judgment on his house for all time because of the sins of which he knew, for his sons had been scorning God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I have sworn against the house of Eli, that the sin of the house of Eli will not be atoned by sacrifice and offering for all time. And Samuel lay until morning, and he opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. And Eli called to Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he said, Here I am. And he said, What is the thing he spoke to you? Pray, do not conceal it from me. Thus and more may God do to you if you conceal from me anything of all the things he spoke to you. And Samuel told him all the things, and he did not conceal from him. And he said, He is the Lord. What is good in his eyes, let him do. And Samuel grew up, and the Lord was with him. And he did not fall to the ground any of his words. And he let not fall to the ground any of his words. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was stalwart as a prophet to the Lord. And the Lord continued to appear in Shiloh, for the Lord was revealed to Samuel in Shiloh through the word of the Lord, and Samuel's word was upon all of Israel.
Okay. Whoa, some kind of important things in there. At the very beginning, it says, in those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. And it made me stop and go, wonder why? Wonder why people weren't hearing the word of the Lord anymore. You know, we've gone through the wilderness. We've had God leading them by day with the cloud, leading them with the cloud of fire, giving them manna every day, the 10 commandments, Joshua fighting and winning. And now here we are during the time of the judges, getting ready to move over into the prophetic period. And it said the words of the Lord were rare, visions were infrequent. What had happened, we think?
People become complacent, you know.
Sure, people have become complacent.
Maybe they went through a period God is dead.
Yeah, they might have gone through a period of
Like, right? I
or
remember that, yeah.
things are going okay. And a lot of times when things are, moving along okay, we don't always feel the need for God. Mm-hmm. Have you ever felt like you heard God's voice or had a sense that God was speaking directly to you in some way?
Not at the time. I look back on my life and see his guidance, but at the time I did not recognize it as God's guidance.
Okay, all right.
No, I can't say I've ever felt like I've had God saying, boom, here, do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
So you are waiting for that bush to burn and not be consumed.
yeah, well, it's, I do have those things that tell me, maybe I should do this before I get swallowed by a big fish or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, or that azalea, I come home and it's on fire and talking to me and not going anywhere.
And it tells you to take off your shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're on holy ground.
Yeah, but I don't have dreams or feel like I heard somebody saying, "Hey, go do this."
Right. And I think that's typical. It's because I've told my story to enough people and the response is always, "Wow." Most people don't even have what I have when I look back, and all these coincidences are too many to be coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
Most people go, "No, doesn't happen to me like that."
I think even when you're talking about back when people were having, it's still a very limited few probably back then that are getting, he wasn't going around to everybody. He went to Samuel, but
Yeah.
so
I think it also depends on I don't know that I could say that I've heard God's voice telling me specific directions, but there have been 2, maybe 3 times in my life where he was definitely there. And I felt what he was saying. There was no question that he was telling me something. I don't know that I heard a booming voice, coming down from heaven, but there was definitely an inner voice telling me what to do. Yeah.
I one time, it was when I was in college, and I think I've shared the story before. We were reading the crucifixion, and it was like the middle of the night. I was getting around to doing homework and get prepared for class the next day. And I'm reading the crucifixion story, and the part where Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? As clear as day. I heard a voice say, for Angie. So clearly, I got up to see if my roommate was calling.
Oh,
And I sat back down, and it just kind of like, and I got up again to see if there was anybody in the house.
wow.
And it wasn't. And then I realized that, I guess that was kind of my moment when I realized.
You not get up a third time, that's very biblical.
Just twice.
But
That this was that moment when I realized that he was a very personal savior, that he knew me then, and he died specifically for me. Yes, for all mankind, but specifically for me. And that was like that moment that I knew. So I've had, like you, I look back on my life and realize that that had to have been God leading us in that direction, leading us to do this, leading us to do that. Have you all had experiences like that where you know?
Similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Jobs or something, like that.
Yeah, my whole career.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, then it goes on to say, one night, Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. Okay. If we look at it from a literary standpoint, Eli going blind is easily symbolic of the fact that Eli no longer sees God and his law clear. But God's lamp had not gone out. Like just because Eli didn't see him clearly did not mean God wasn't gone. Samuel, on the other hand, was lying in the temple next to the Ark of the Covenant. Temple? No, the tabernacle. Okay. Next to the Ark, close to God, ready to serve. But then it goes on to say, and Samuel answered, here I am, and he ran to Eli. And it was 3 times he heard the voice, and each time he went to Eli, and Eli finally realized, this is the Lord calling. When you go back, say, Lord, your servant is listening. We talk all the time about prayer shouldn't just be blah, 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 blah. We need to incorporate into our prayer, listen. We're asking God for guidance. We're asking God to do things. We're asking God for this. Yes, we're also praising God, but are we stopping to say, Lord, I'm listening. Where is it you want me to go? What is it you want me to do? Where is my place? What am I to do?
So like the prayer in the church service
Yeah.
today.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand with that, which
Yeah.
you did, right?
It did.
Yeah.
When Samuel goes back and lies down and he goes, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Most biblical scholars mark this as the beginning of Samuel's prophetic ministry. That it transformed him into a true servant of the Lord and God's mouthpiece for the nation, ensuring that God would speak to him again. So, and the Lord said to Samuel, I'm about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it worry. My translation says tingle. Anybody else have a different word? It's verse 11. And yours said, ring. I loved that. Like
Says tingle.
ring out like a bell. And I'm going to carry out everything I spoke against Eli. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Eli had two sons, Hophni and Phinehas. And they were acting wickedly, abusing their priestly powers and indulging in immorality. Eli's failure to correct them would have serious consequences. So what they would do is people would bring their burnt offerings, and Hophni and Phinehas would go and pick out the best pieces for them before it was burned. So they weren't even waiting for it to be sanctified, to be burned. They were picking out the best pieces of meat and taking it home. And then there were women who lived in the church to wait on the Lord, and they were having sex with them. So,
Where's that? What is it? How does it?
well, it talks about it in
Oh,
some
okay.
of the chapters that they were engaging in immorality
Oh, wow.
with the women in the church. And
That's like the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages,
Yes, really?
isn't it?
so anyway, we've got a lot of bad things
Exactly.
going on, and Eli knew about these things and didn't reprimand his sons or take them away from positions of power. So I think it's interesting that God's first message to Samuel was a prophecy of doom. Yeah, someone's getting doomed. Samuel lay down until morning and then opened the doors of the house of the Lord. He was afraid to tell Eli the vision, and Eli called him and said, Samuel, my son. He calls him his son several times in this chapter. And I wondered about that. It's kind of like a moment of realizing that Samuel perhaps is the son he wished he'd always had, and he was the godly son. He was the one, and like when he got up the next morning, he did all of his chores in the church. He did the things first for the Lord. Then he goes and looks for Eli. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all will be given unto you. So he goes first. And then Eli said, what did the Lord tell you? Now here's Samuel. I don't want to tell him that bad things are happening. You know, this is like your teacher,
Yeah.
you know, your mentor. I don't want to tell you. And then Eli says, don't hide anything from me, because I'm going to pray that God does not only what he's going to do to me, but worse to you. And so Samuel told him everything, didn't hide anything. And then Eli says, the Lord knows what is good. Let him do what is right in his own eyes. I'm not sure I would be so complacent.
Yeah.
I'd be like, Lord, come on. I'm going to take him out of the church. You know, forgive me now, you know. But he was like, okay. And it says that the Lord was with Samuel as he grew up, and let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. What that means in translation was that everything that Samuel foretold came true. There was not a prophecy he prophesied about that didn't come true, which that was the test of a prophet back then. Did what you prophesied come true? It couldn't be 85%, 70%. You had to be right all the time. And so all of his words came true. So the Lord was with him. Okay.
You know what was interesting to me about this is a lot of times in the Old Testament, you'll hear, you know, the sins of the father will fall on the children, and the children will suffer as a consequence. This is almost the opposite. The sins of the children are fighting the father, you know. Which is interesting. It makes me think about, parenting in a different light.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also he didn't do
Yeah.
anything about it.
Yeah.
He saw what they were doing
Yeah.
was wrong and
He
did
did
nothing
do-
to correct it.
Yeah.
So although the sin was the son's, he stood idly by as a parent.
Be enabled.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think about how many times that happens in the Bible. Eve, and then God, Adam eats the fruit, and God said, who told you this? And he goes, eat, maybe do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault. I'm not accountable for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all accountable.
Yeah, and then, I'm reading up about Pontifer's wife, or I think on Tuesday, and, she's got the rap. She's a pretty bad girl,
Yeah, she is.
but Pontifer didn't do anything to make her feel secure in that marriage.
Mhm.
So although she had sins of commission, he had sins of omission,
Mhm.
but he blamed it on her, all that was happening. So, it's what we do. We play the blame game.
Watch that Netflix, The Keepers. It's a documentary about the nun that was killed in the Catholic Church in the 60s. They covered up all those sex, everything that was going on. It's awful. But
Oh.
they still didn't find out.
They never found out who killed.
But it goes to premise that they know it, that archdiocese and all the priests higher up knew, just kept transferring him around, and just they didn't do anything about it.
Well, that seems to be their policy.
Yeah.
It does.
Anytime
So
there's a
it-
problem, they just transfer the priest somewhere else, and that will take care of it.
I actually have step grandfather who was a pedophile. And he and my grandmother's, my dad's mother and her second husband, they were custodians in orphanages back when you had orphanages. And he'd get caught and they'd fire him and he'd go to another orphanage.
Oh.
Yeah.
it's never.
Today he'd be in jail, but this was 60
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And the parents were. These girls went to all girls school. Then, and there was all boys, and the parents were just looked at the priests like they were just God.
Walked out.
And never really doubted anything. You never really delved into what was going on. And everybody kept silent.
And in an orphanage, there is no one to
Right.
speak.
There's no advocate for them.
Yeah.
But this nun stepped up to, try to help.
She was a whistleblower. Mhm.
Sort of, yeah, and they terrible.
Okay, who would like to read chapter 4?
I can do that.
Okay.
In those days, the Philistines mustered for war against Israel, and Israel went out to battle against them. They encamped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped at Aphek. The Philistines drew up in line against Israel. When the battle was joined, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the field of battle. When the troops came to the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has the Lord put us to rout today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord here from Shiloh, so that he may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies." So the people sent to Shiloh and brought from there the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, who was enthroned on the cherubim. The two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel gave a mighty shout, so that the earth resounded. When the Philistines heard the noise of the shouting, they said, "What does this great shouting in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come to the camp, the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "Gods have come into the camp." They also said, "Woe to us, for nothing like this has ever happened before. Woe to us, who can deliver us from the power of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with every sort of plague in the wilderness. Take courage and be men, O Philistines, in order not to become slaves to the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So the Philistines fought. Israel was defeated, and they fled, everyone to his home. There was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 foot soldiers. the ark of God was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died.
Let's stop there
Okay.
for a minute. Okay, that's through verse 11. Okay, now the Israelites went out to fight the Philistines. Let me tell you a little bit about the Philistines. The Philistines were part of the incursion of the sea peoples from the Aegean. They established a powerful presence in Canaan on the coastal plains near modern Tel Aviv today. That was kind of where they were located. They were intrepid soldiers with a mastery of military strategy and technology because they had entered into the Iron Age. They were able to do things with iron. They had iron chariots and swords and shields and helmets. Yet their biggest problem was that they were never able to expand into the hilly regions because the chariots weren't good going over hills. So they were great on the coastal plain, and they ruled that coastal plain with an iron fist, no pun intended. But the hilly plains, they never really got a foothold there. They ruled there for about 40 years. Let's see. The Philistines were the first people in Canaan to process iron, and they made the most of it. This was a difficult period for Israel. Never did times seem more hopeless than when Samuel arose. The Philistines, strengthened not merely by a constant influx of immigrants, but by importation of arms from Greece, were fast reducing Israel to the condition of a subject race. Okay, so they go out to fight against the Philistines because, we're the chosen people, and God's going to defeat the Philistines for us. So we're going to go out and fight them. And Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 of them on the battlefield. And the elders then asked, why did the Lord bring defeat on us today? Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh so that we may go with us and save us from the hands of their enemies. So they did come back and say, why did God go against us? Now's the time to go, because we need to get ourselves right with God before we go out again. But instead they said, I have an idea. Let's go get the Ark of the Covenant and bring it back out, and then God will be here. So let's go get the symbol of God. Like, there's nothing wrong with us. We just didn't have the symbol here. That's what we need, the symbol. It's kind of like, let's put the cross up on the battlefield, and we're gonna, no one can defeat us. And when the ark came into the camp, the Philistines heard the shouting, and they were camped about 4 miles away. So they heard it. Now we have to remember we're on the plains. So they heard it across about 4 miles, this shouting, and they go, what's going on? And they said, the Ark of the Covenant is there. Uh-oh. They've got God with them now. What are we going to do? Isn't this the God that brought plagues on Egypt? This is a mighty God. What are we going to do? Now, they believed in Dagon. That was their mighty God, Dagon. And later in the chapter, we're going to find that they took the ark back and put it in Dagon's temple. And every morning when they got up, Dagon was face down in front of the ark. Almost as if even God made Dagon bow down before him. But nevertheless, they were like, and finally they say to each other, hey man, get your act together. We've got to fight. We've got to be brave.
And Angie, my Bible actually said, these are the gods, plural. You struck the Egyptians. So I don't think the Philistines really
like it was a monotheistic. Yeah.
They don't understand that it's one God.
So the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were defeated, and every man fled to his tent. The slaughter was very great, and Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's 2 sons were killed. This was a crushing defeat. Crushing defeat. Not because of all the people that were defeated, but because the ark was captured. The Ark of the Covenant was captured. Oh, we're in big trouble now. So then, chapter like 12 through 22. Anybody?
I can read that.
Okay.
A man of Benjamin ran from the battle line and came to Shiloh the same day, with his clothes torn and with earth upon his head. When he arrived, Eli was sitting upon his seat by the road watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God.
Now let's remember, they came to get the ark, and Eli didn't stop them.
He just
He let him go.
Yeah.
Eli apparently doesn't know how to say
No,
No.
no. Eli's not good at that.
When the man came into the city and told the news, all the city cried out. When Eli heard the sound of the outcry, he said, "What is this uproar?"
Okay, I think that it's interesting that he went in to tell the city first. Eli's sitting out by the gate waiting.
Yeah.
And goes in and tells the city, and Eli goes, "Why is everyone upset?" And then the man comes.
Then the man came quickly and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were set so that he could not see. The man said to Eli, I have just come from the battle. I fled from the battle today, he said. How did it go, my son? The messenger replied, Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there has also been a great slaughter among the troops. Your two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured.
Okay, 4 bad things.
Sons are dead.
Israel has fled, great slaughter, your sons are dead, the ark's been captured. Okay, this is important. Go.
Okay. When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell over backward from his seat by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken. He died. For he was an old man and heavy. He had judged Israel 40 years.
Okay, so the Philistines have defeated us. There's been a great slaughter. He's there. He's there. Your sons are dead. The ark's been captured. That was the piece of news. And Eli, I don't know if he passed out, if he just fell over from the shock of it, but he died. Yeah, something happened and he died. And we're going to quickly go through the rest because we need to go. Phineas's wife was pregnant and near the time of her delivery. And she heard the news that the ark was captured and her father-in-law was dead. She went into labor and gave birth to a son. She named the boy Ichabod, which means the glory of God has departed from Israel, because the capture of the ark of God and the deaths of her father-in-law and husband. She said, glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured.